Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. So I wanted to show you guys the ZT0707, and first thing you're probably going to notice is I do have a different background in front of me than normal, and hopefully by the title of this video you can tell that I'm actually going to do a disassembly on this knife. I do want to show you one of the unique features which they refer to as the tuned detent system. Let's hit some high-level stuff with it real quick. Here's what it ships with. This is the model number, blade steel, and then obviously the handle materials. They've changed the packaging. They're trying to move away from their military-esque heritage and just focus on the fact that they make premium products now. And so they did a redesign of packaging again, which some of you guys already saw. So again, this is an in-house design, which is designated by that little logo up there. That means a Kershaw original design, which primarily is comprised of their in-house designer, Jim McNair, and whichever team he works with. He's the only kind of designer who has a public face for the brand, you know, seen on the SHOT Show and Blade Show videos and so forth. But we do see some design cues here from some of his designs, namely the 777, which will always live in infamy. And since this knife does carry the 7 in the designation, the 0707, obviously it's going to refer to some of those design cues. In this lineup, there's also the 0770. You have the 777 in various iterations. You'll see some of these design cues in like the Link, the Natrix, the bare knuckle, which I've got right here. This was a limited edition, but you know, similar design cues, and then kind of the open cutout around the pivot, reminiscent of the 999. So again, all in-house designs. I'm going to attribute them to Jim McNair, but he always skirts around praise and compliment, and always mentions it's a team effort, despite how we try to corner him. So, anyways, it does have a few interesting things. This design was announced and then essentially came out 2 days later, and Kershaw/ZT/Kai USA for the first time in a long time has actually sold these knives from their website, but at MAP pricing, which is what all the dealers charge. Whereas before they would list them on the website, but at full MSRP, so it never really made sense to buy directly from them. But with this drop, directly from their website at what we'll call dealer pricing or minimum advertised pricing, and so these are now sold out on their website, but some of the normal dealers will be getting them soon. So again, kind of an interesting difference or change. Let's do a few size comparisons. Again, this background is less than attractive, but it does serve a purpose for disassembly over the wood table. So here's a few interesting ones, but it does have a blade length of 3.5, a handle length of 4.6, about 8.25 overall, and it does weigh in at 2.3 ounces, so super lightweight. Obviously, it's a slender, long carry. So you've got the 470, we've got the Kershaw Dividend. These are all Kershaw/ZT offerings. We do have the Para 2. And it's pretty much the same length as the Para 2, certainly more cutting edge, certainly more lightweight, especially, you know, than my one with the titanium handles here. You already saw it with the bare knuckle. Now let's look at the 560. Always a tried and true design. So there's, you know, really nice carbon fiber, some other stuff too. Alright, that should do it, I think, for the high-level stuff. Let's go ahead, and I think we're just going to take this, well, one more thing. Let's actually look at it real quick before I disassemble. CPM 20 CV, pretty much a full flat grind. Nice, cool pivot. I think the hardware is steel. Got the see-through cutout here. Carbon fiber is very high quality, and this stuff is pretty grippy. Honestly, I've been a fan of the ZT carbon fiber, but you could accuse me of being a ZT fanboy. We've got standoffs at the back and a pretty small deep carry clip. They've envisioned this one as an everyday carry piece, whether, you know, again, if their marketing videos are any indication, at the range or in the office. This would work very well in slacks as well. Thankfully, I haven't had to wear slacks in a long time. Stainless steel lock insert, and then can I get that cool flipper tab? But it definitely a slender, full size but long, lightweight carry knife. Ergos are pretty good. I don't really have any complaints. I mean, this is not by any means a tactical knife, nor should it be viewed as one. It's a premium everyday carry knife, and you get a small, kind of a slender, lightweight package without sacrificing any blade length. So action is pretty good, but it's definitely not going to be drop shut. Blade is really light, and then we have to talk about the detent system, which again was kind of the scope of this video, but I can't help but kind of ramble on a bit. So, couple things first. I did have to, I took a soldering iron and I had to heat up the pivot to break the Loctite on this one. So, I've broken the Loctite, but I haven't actually disassembled it yet. So let's do that now. There's the pivot. Long threads. It's always comforting. T8 Torx hardware. Let's look at the T6 here. Gonna unscrew the two standoffs. Okie dokie. And a much longer screw at the back, and then the screw in the middle, pretty small. So let's pop this open. Ooh, there we go. All right, so a couple things then that we need to take a look at. Oh, interesting. Look at how the pocket clip fits in here, and then there's essentially just one screw going through it here. That's interesting. Pretty cool. Which, well, it's cool how they fit it, but obviously that means that I think this is the only clip I've ever seen like this, so don't anticipate swapping up your clip unless I'm wrong, and I'm sure someone will tell me. There's one of the standoffs, the other one fell. How interesting. It's an asymmetric standoff. Oh boy. How the hell is that going to go back together? I'd assume that this side... Maybe it was like that. No, I think it was two back here like this. Anyways, I'm not going to put it back together on camera. I just wanted to show you guys the system. Apologize, I'm kind of drifting off here. But two important things that we need to consider, and that is, why are there two detent balls and two detent systems essentially, whereas the knife itself only has one detent hole, which is right there. So this is what they mean by the tuned detent system. Essentially, traditionally frame locks, like the 470 here, you have the detent ball right here on the frame lock, and so the disengagement of the blade occurs like so, and you guys know that the detent ball is right there. Hopefully, how frame locks work isn't foreign to most of you. Anyway, so you typically have just one detent ball, one detent hole, and then it's all on the lock side. And so when you're making a frame lock, you have to kind of balance a couple of things. One, there needs to be adequate pressure on the lock bar. Well, let's take a step back. So the tuned detent system, it has put the detent ball here on the show side, and the lock side is just a detent ball that runs along the blade, but the lock arm does not function as the detent that keeps the blade closed. One of the problems that they were having is that people would put a lot of pressure on the lock bar while they were holding it and trying to flip it, and so they couldn't get the knife opened, or they struggled to. This is something that I have never struggled with because I've had many flippers over the years, and I don't want to say technique, but technique doesn't really have a problem with it. Well, in order to remedy, they're using essentially the detent is here on the show side, so you can't put pressure on it, and so then the flipping action is not affected by pressure on the lock bar. So anyways, that solves kind of grip issues for some people. Obviously the downside is we do have two detent balls pushing on the blade, so the action won't ever be as smooth as something like the 470 or many other frame locks that only have one detent ball pushing on the blade. So obviously that's one consideration. So it's a trade-off, right? You don't have to worry about putting lock bar pressure on this one, especially such a slender knife. And it's over here. Now, the other thing that I'm guessing is that when you have it set up like this, and they call it the tune detent system, and again, the name's a bit confusing because you and we don't get to tune it, but the factory, I think what they mean is the factory gets to tune it. Because traditionally, again, there needs to be adequate lock bar pressure to keep the blade closed, but also to lock up and engage the blade when opened properly. And so that's probably a temperamental dance there between, do I have enough lock bar pressure to make sure the action is good, but also make sure that it locks up properly and I don't have any blade play? And so by separating the two, you can tune the detent perfectly on one side and just make sure the lock bar pressure on the lock bar arm is adequate to engage the tang of the blade where you need to. So again, that's my guess as far as kind of what one of the benefits are from the factory and why they call it a tuned detent system, because they can really get the detent strength exactly where they want it to achieve the action that they want without worrying about lock bar pressure. But at the same time, we now have double the detent balls, double the surface tension on the detent balls, and so yeah, I'm not going to say it's a perfect system, but it does solve a problem for some of those people who were complaining, and they were numerous because I did see the comments on my own videos, as well as the forums, people just complaining that the knife, you just couldn't open it, when I knew that they didn't know how to hold it properly. So anyways, that's a look at the tuned detent system. Now, this is not the first knife that Zero Tolerance has produced with the tuned detent system. The first was a knife that there was a prototype but never made it into production. That was the 0427, what would have been a limited edition collaboration with Dmitry Singovich. It wasn't the most attractive knife, and they knew that, and we knew that, but they never put it into production because the consumer response was actually quite negative. And they just decided that machine time would be better served with producing, production knives that they knew would sell and that people wanted. And anyways, so that, so that's a look at the Zero Tolerance 0707, the in-house design and production that I am blaming or crediting Jim McNair with. And this is produced in the USA. Price $250, unless you want to pay for 2-day overnight shipping, and then that jacks up the price considerably, but you're welcome. So anyways, hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully this means you don't have to take apart your knife to see what the hell's going on, because I have suffered through that for you. So I'm going to have to go through and figure out how to put this back together. It'll just take me a couple minutes. Shouldn't be life or death. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Sorry for the ugly blue background yet again, and you can follow me on Instagram for daily content. I will see you guys soon. Take care.